And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of You Get What You Get. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with my co-host, Ms. Tree McDougal, Tim Turner, coming to you on a Tuesday of Super Bowl week. Hope everybody out there is having a great time. And greetings to everybody tuning in on the African American Athlete Facebook page, the You Get What You Get Facebook page, and the African American Athlete YouTube page. We'd love to have your questions and comments. Just type them in the comments section, and we will definitely try to get to them. We have a really good show planned this evening. But first and foremost, welcome everybody. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I am excited about our guest this evening and all that we're going to talk about. It's going to be a good evening.
Yeah, I echo that with Tree. I think it's going to be great. We're going to have a little taste of the desert, a little seeing what's going on out there in Glendale, Phoenix area, and just an array of topics surrounding the Super Bowl and other things. You know, we got the NBA to talk about with the Kyrie trade, and then LeBron needing 36 points to become the top scorer of all time in the NBA, and just the trade deadline's coming up on Thursday. So there's that, and there's just a myriad of things. And spring training is about like a week away. So there's that. Forget about baseball.
Yeah. And you know, the talk of the big story, at least the people I know in my community, is the fact we're going to have two black quarterbacks guiding their teams in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles and Patrick Mahomes for the Kansas City Chiefs. And man, it's been a long, steady climb. And Tim, you know, I've been talking about this the last few years. We've been talking about the rise of the black quarterback in the NFL. I think this says it is no question that the black quarterback is here and here to stay in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. And I was thinking, I said, man, it's the first time a black quarterback probably has won a Super Bowl since Doug. And then I had to think, wait a minute, Pat Mahomes won it in 2020. So,
Right.
but you know, you think of those milestones. What's that?
Let's not forget.
Yeah, that's not. I was going right there with it. Like that, he was MVP of the Super Bowl in 2020. So, the Chiefs have had some dominance there, and it's been behind Mahomes. You look at Hurts; both of these cats are the combined youngest average age of quarterbacks in the to ever play in the game. But this is it's gonna be a game of like four brothers. The movie Four Brothers. You know, you think about that. The 2005 movie with Andre 3000 and Mark Wahlberg. But it's got the Kelsey brothers and you got the two brothers at quarterback. So you're excited about seeing those things. So we got four in the game. So I'm excited.
I was going to say that.
What's that? You what?
I was going to say that. Two brothers and two brothers.
Yeah.
And speaking of the brother, we got another brother just joining us here, the great one, Mr. D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, who been kind enough to give us a few minutes from Phoenix before he heads out and does his media thing. This is Super Bowl number what for you, D. Led?
Shoot, I don't know, 19, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of them, brother.
I know 30.
That's a lot of. Hey, but thank you, man, for joining us. We know you're busy, and we aren't going to keep you long. Just your general thoughts. We just opened up the show talking about, you know, the big story, particularly in the black community around the country, is the fact we got two African American quarterbacks starting this game for their teams.
Yeah, and that was the first story I wrote today as I got in last night. And hello to everybody, Miss Tree and Timothy. You know, was the fact that both of the young men embraced it and were ready to talk about the historical significance and that they knew the history of, you know, of the plight of the black quarterback in the National Football League. You didn't have to tell them about Marlon Briscoe and some of the other gentlemen who preceded them. So that was refreshing. And for the folks that, don't want to recognize the history of the game and the significance of it, you just gotta move on and just keep trying to educate them.
But in the sense that you wrote that story you wrote today, do you get a sense that people are super hyping that up, or they trying to go with it like it's just any old regular quarterback where, now we're getting to the point where it doesn't even matter what race the quarterbacks are? We lost your sound.
Can't hear you, D-Lad. We lost you.
Yeah.
Unmute yourself.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
That better? Okay. I'll try not to move. I got a sensitive, I think, wire on this mic. But no, I sense that the young players tend to, the ones that I talked to today, Jerick McKinnon was like, hey, this is a big moment for the culture. These kids are a little bit more conscious than folks want to give them credit for. They've been through a lot in the last few years on the heels of Colin Kaepernick and George Floyd and Marie Arbery protest. So, I like to think they are, at least the players are conscious of it and are embracing it.
True.
Yeah, that's surprising that someone would try to gloss over that. But what else what's kind of the feel? I know you probably haven't been there that long, but I'm not sure when you arrived. But what's kind of the mood there?
Oh, it's festive. It's a festive Super Bowl, and I believe 29 was my first one, but I haven't been to all since 29. That would have been San Francisco and the Chargers in Miami in the big blowout game. Then I know I had the Packers in 32 and 33. And then, I started at the AJC in 03. So everything since then pretty much. So I guess I better figure that out. But yeah, it's festive. It's early in the week, so the town isn't as festive. The media is just getting in here. The fans tend to come later in the week. They're getting the sports zone set up and the barricades and all that around downtown and so forth. But for now, it's more like a worker village. And that'll turn into a fan-friendly village in downtown Phoenix as the game gets closer.
Yeah. Hey, D-Lad, what do you think this means? The fact that we do have two black quarterbacks who have led their teams, and how it fits into the whole issue of diversity in the NFL. We had Flores with the coaching, the lawsuit, the Rooney Rule. Does this all kind of work together, you think?
No, I think it's desperate. It's disparate effects on different tracks on different levels throughout the league. The players are, it's on one thing where the coaches are recognizing that, hey, there's some merit to, putting the best players on the field where, as in the coaching hiring realm, there's no such merit. There's still an old boys network. We saw it play out in Charlotte this year with Steve Wilkes not getting the job. I think he's going to San Francisco as the DC now. But, I mean, he did everything under the sun to get that job, and they still were intent on hiring a white offensive player coach, former player coach, and Frank Reich, who, didn't really do a good job in Indianapolis as the head coach up there. In that way, it's still a lot of work to be done. Yeah, the owner came out and touted his hiring practices, which, he does have a couple of our friends on the staff, and Bruce Spade and Steve. I'm drawing a blank on Steve's last name, but Steve Drummond. So he does have some African Americans in executive positions, but when it comes to hiring coaches, they just got this block on the white genius guy that can drop a couple plays in the dirt. And they want him to be the head coach, and we've seen it time and time again.
Now everything's pretty much locked up except for Arizona, right? Is that the?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's pretty much a mess because they gave Kyler the contract, and Flores was a candidate, and it speaks volumes for the fact that he won't wait to see if he's getting that job. he's going to take a defensive coordinator job instead with the Minnesota Vikings instead of waiting for Arizona, because he must not see that as a worthy situation. They fired Steve Wilkes after 1 year. They're in that cycle that Houston's in right now, where Houston fired Culley, fired Lovey, and now they gave D'Amico 6 years. So we'll see how that works out for him. But yeah, that Brian Flores did not take the San Francisco job speaks volumes did not wait for the Arizona job. Speaks volumes for the fact of how much a mess that is out here in where I'm at in Phoenix.
Does it give him sort of like some cover fire with the black quarterbacks thinking, look at the progress the league has made? And I'm hoping people will come out and say what you just said, saying there's been no progress outside of what's on the field, because these kids are the prototype of quarterbacks going forward, which was always my gripe. And I'm going to have my little 5 seconds with Matty Ice. He was never a threat. It was never 11 on 11 to be worried about on the field. You have to game plan for these quarterbacks. Whereas, if it's, 5 yards or less or whatever, these cats will pick up the first down.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of running quarterbacks, and I think eventually you get pounded into the ground. We saw it with Cam Newton. The only person that really evolved and learned how to read defenses over time was Randall Cunningham, that had some longevity. So, no, I'm not going to be an advocate of running quarterbacks. We're seeing it with Lamar right now. He can't even finish the season. And we're only 4 years in. So I think you do have to learn how to read defenses. You do got to throw the ball from the pocket. And that's not just me talking. That's from years of, interviewing coaches. And one of the respected quarterback coaches who passed away this year, he's like, yeah, Larry, you could run between the 20s, but at some point in the playoffs, inside the 20s, you're going to have to make a play from the pocket. And so, I don't mind mixing it up, but I want my quarterbacks to be able to throw from the pocket. And if you can escape trouble, that's great also.
I think what you're talking about is the creativity that we see from Mahomes that can.
Right. The more loose,
yeah.
Drop back 3 steps.
I'm with you, man.
I'm not a big fan of playground football, so I'm just sorry. I'd rather see formations and on-time play.
So you want Tom Brady. You want Tom Brady to come back.
You want Dak.
Def by crossing routes. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Hey, you mentioned Lamar. And his thing is, do you think that was all injury? Do you think it was all injury?
I thought, I know with the posterior ligament, you could stand and move on that. You're not as fast. If it's stabilized, you could, do some of the things. But for a running quarterback, he wasn't going to sit back there and throw it 30 times. So for him, it probably was more severe, more injury. And I'm never going to question a pro athletes on their health, because they certainly, their health is their wealth. And if he said he can't go, he can't go.
Tree, I'll let you get the final question, and then we'll get his prediction.
Oh, well, let me ask this then. I want to ask about his prediction then. Out of all the Super Bowls that you've been to, is there one that you've been most excited about or fond memories of?
Yes, no doubt. This was in Miami. I seem to like the Miami Super Bowls, but it was Lovie Smith going against Tony Dungy, Colts against the Bears. And Devin Hester took the opening kickoff back right away, and Coach Dungy and his guys prevailed with Peyton Manning at quarterback. But yeah, the fact that I had a guaranteed black coach winning the game going in, like we're gonna have on Sunday, was one of my favorite Super Bowls. Ms.
Excellent.
Thank you for that question.
Sure. What about a favorite? Do you get a chance to see the performances at halftime? And if so, do you have a favorite?
No, I don't. I did have to get a Beyonce picture in Houston for my daughters, and so I did do that. I did watch last year because that was dynamite. I still have that one on my phone with the West Coast folks and Snoop Dogg and everything.
Yeah.
The one girl in Indianapolis who MIA, she did some, that I wasn't at the Janet Jackson one, but the Prince one in Miami was great when he and Bruce Springsteen was a good one, but I think last year might have been the best ever with the whole LA flow. You're in LA, you got Snoop Dogg doing the crip walk across the Super Bowl stage. That was pretty high. I actually still got that on my phone.
That was a good one.
That and the Prince one is the one I'll go back and look at too.
All right. So we'll need to check back with you after Rihanna this weekend.
I got low expectations, but maybe she will exceed
you and me both.
Low
I think the new umbrella, I'll be fine with that. And,
all right. We'll see. We'll check back with you, sir.
All right, question, D, who's going to win this game?
I got the Eagles here, football-wise. The defense, I just keep coming to the 70 sacks. They got 8 more in the playoffs, 69-14 coming through the NFC. But I don't really want to count out Mahomes and his ability to make plays. I just don't think that defense is stout enough with all the rookies in the secondary over there. Now, we got a couple HBCU guys over there. Brian Cook started his career at Howard, but he ended at Cincinnati. He's from Cincinnati, so that's fine. And, of course, I went to law school at Cincinnati, so that's fine too. And the other kid, Joshua Williams, is from Fayetteville State. Both of them are rookies and they haven't been doing a great job. So, those are some HBCU guys to root for. So also Javon Hargrave from South Carolina State. He's one of the tackles for the Eagles. So, I'm going with the Eagles, but, probably later on in the week I might flip. But right now it's looking Eagles by 3 as a good way to go for the Super Bowl here.
Okay, brother.
All right. A cigar is on its way. The cigar is on its way to you, D-Led. I think there's a rematch coming in September. Hopefully it'll be a different story, sir.
All right. Well, we'll be ready for that. And we are the defending MEAC co-champs.
Hey, thanks so much, brother, for checking in with us, man. Have a great week.
All right, great. Thanks for having me. Y'all have a great week also.
Right.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you.
That was the Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution checking in there from Phoenix. It's good to get a live report from the site. Super Bowl week. I can't imagine. I covered 15 Super Bowls, and the last one I covered may have been 2000. It may have been here in Detroit when Pittsburgh won. And it was huge then. I can't imagine what it is 10, 15 years later. All the events that are going on. But
they get larger and larger.
Yeah, I was going to say, I get larger and larger and more costly as well.
Absolutely. Because it used to, when you come in, you see all the private jets parked to the side at the airport where everybody's coming into town. You know all that is going to be going on. There's going to be a lot of money spent in Phoenix this week.
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be a ton of it. And I think like they said, 103 million people around the country are going to be doing Super Bowl parties or something to that effect. And there are 12 teams that have never won the Super Bowl, Ricky.
Yeah.
12.
I live in a town where...
and that is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, but you know what else? I read that I think 60 million people are going to place a bet on the game.
Oh, yeah, these crazy prop bets and that kind of stuff. I mean, what was it, 1 year? Was it Peyton Manning or a safety that kicked off the game and somebody won an insane amount of money or something like that? But all these prop bets, like the first punt, the first fumble, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it keeps you interested if you get something on the line.
Have you guys got your wings ordered? You having parties?
No Super Bowl party here this week.
I meant wangs, not wings.
Wings.
Are you guys doing anything?
That's going to be on the menu for Sunday for sure. I'm not a big Super Bowl party person because I don't like people talking during the game around.
Watch the game.
I think I had a party with some friends when Janet Jackson performed, and I just remember that, and we were like, "Wait a minute, what just happened?"
I missed
it. Stop the party right there.
Janet
Jackson.
Yeah. I totally missed it.
I remember the performance and the Super Bowl that stands out for me was '91 in Tampa with the Gulf War going on and Whitney singing. But what I remember distinct was the security and the just eeriness. Because, people thinking something might break off at any minute with some terrorists, and security was just, I'm sure it's probably like that now. But back then, that was a big change of things. Yeah. But I'm riding this black quarterback thing because, as I was asking D-Led, do you guys feel that this goes beyond the playing field and maybe to some of the diversity issues that exist within the game, within the front offices? Hey, look at Chicago, just hired Kevin Warren as the team president, African-American, former commissioner of the Big Ten. Is this influx of black quarterbacks, do you think it can reach beyond the playing field? Start with you, Tree, and then Tim.
I'm going to let Tim take this one. Then I'll jump in.
Oh. I think it extends beyond the playing field in the fact that D-Led said this is for the culture. And it's like where you have people have a rooting interest in for these different teams, different games. They'll be pretty much divided this time around. Whereas if it were, say, Joe Burrow in this against Jalen Hurts, where everybody would be on Jalen Hurts on his side. I think it does extend beyond that because people, well, you mentioned Marlon Briscoe. Marlon Briscoe ended his career as a receiver, right? Tony Dungy was a quarterback at the University of Minnesota, but he came into the Steelers and played defensive back.
Yeah.
Warren Moon had to go to Canada for 37 years and then came to the United States and dominated with that offense in Houston. So it's like it's come light years for that. And, people thought Tampa was crazy for taking Doug number one.
Yeah. You go back a little further. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tim.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to add to that. Eldridge Dickey was a first-round draft pick of the Oakland Raiders in 1968, and they moved him to wide receiver.
Right.
After drafting him as a quarterback ahead of Kenny Stabler from Alabama. And Claude Humphrey went to his grave saying Eldridge Dickey was the best quarterback he had ever seen in any league at any time.
Wow.
So those opportunities just were not coming.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know my parents were really just crazed about Condredge Holloway at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because, the black quarterback in the SEC in his running style. And back in those days, they had T-shirts as jerseys. And so nobody could catch him. So, that kind of thing. So when your parents, Eddie McShann at Georgia Tech, I think he was the first one there. You just keep going on and on with these people. One of my homeboys, Wayne Johnson, I think Wayne Johnson and Earl Jones, either one of those was like one of the first quarterbacks at Georgia, I believe. So it's always, it stood out because those are the thinking positions. Those are the team generals and that kind of thing. I'm sorry, Tree, I cut you off.
No. Continue, please.
Yes.
I said, go ahead. Go on.
No, I could go on for days, but it seems like, you see that, but they're going to see you as an athlete as opposed to a quarterback, unless they give you a chance to shine. Georgia didn't know what to do with African-American quarterbacks. You have Justin Fields in Chicago tearing it up, and the guy, who replaced him, who he couldn't beat out at Georgia, is probably bagging groceries at Publix somewhere in Georgia. So, I mean, it's kind of tough when you look at that kind of thing where they look for drop back and they look for these different. It all depends on what the coach is looking for. Really it does. I keep hearing whispers of doing whatever it takes to get Lamar in Atlanta. You know, because we've done the Michael Vick experience. Michael Vick was outstanding for somebody who only relied on talent because he never, ever, ever studied for a game. He mentioned having a trunk full of game plans on discs in his trunk that he never watched.
Wow.
He just get out there and ball out on Sundays.
Just ball, yeah. Yeah, I know. I think about here in Detroit, Andre Ware was drafted in 1991, and they had no idea what to do with it. If he was here today, he would be one of the top quarterbacks. There's no doubt in my mind when I watch that guy throw and run the football. He'd be
well, I'm thinking of a time being up there with you, Ricky, for the NABJ, and I think it was 92, 94. And we went to a preseason game. It was the Patriots and the Lions. And there was animus in the locker room because you had Rodney Peete and Andre Ware duking it out for who would be the starting quarterback. And those brothers, I mean, it was competitive. Those guys didn't like each other. You could just tell, you could feel it in the locker room.
They're not to this day. You know, that you're absolutely right about that. But yeah, Tree, get you in on this conversation.
Well, I mean, you guys are the experts, but I mean, to your question, you know, do you think it'll, you know, help with the culture and change things? You know, I definitely hope so. But I'm no expert in it, but I think that anytime that you can have African Americans in these leadership roles for these teams, it's a good look for future players and give them some, I guess, some inspiration that they can make it in that to that level, and then also in those positions where perhaps others may not have had that opportunity. So let's hope so.
Well, Tree, how about look at it from a corporate perspective? How would corporations look at issues of diversity adding to their portfolio and ultimately, of course, to their success and bottom line?
You know, I would think so, but you know, this country is so divided right now, and it also, I guess, it depends on the owners and what they're trying to portray. You know, with Colin Kaepernick, you know, that really kind of took a, you know, where you would think it would have been a great thing to stand up. In some cases, they did, but you know, he's still not playing, and so he wasn't allowed to. So I think that. From a corporation, it could be a good, you know, it shouldn't hurt them at all. And it would be, I think it would draw even more fans to the game. But again, since, you know, the country is so divided right now, you know, really hard to say. But I would think that it would be good for that team or any team.
I think you're right. I mean, it shows some sort of progress. And you look at Atlanta has a black GM. Minnesota has a black GM. And you see people in those leadership positions, and you think there's hope in the front office on some level. I think the NFL is doing a better job reaching out, trying to open that pipeline because they have all these HBCU initiatives they're partnering with just to give people a sense of what's going on. They had something here in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. And then they're having anybody in college right now who wants to go into communications for an NFL team. They have something that's coming up at the CIAA basketball tournament. So, I mean, they're making that those type of outreach to I guess, deepen the bench of prospective people there. And so I think that they do those things. I don't know if it's lip service or it's perfunctory or something that, you know, it looks good. They're checking boxes, but it looks like they're making some sort of effort to put people in places where they normally aren't seen.
And then they also have to be supported, you know, once they get there. And so, you know, you can't just put them in a seat and then hope that they, you know, go fly. Some can, and then some may, you know, to have that support. And I'm thinking about, you know, particularly if they're young, if they haven't worked in other places, um, that's going to take some growth. Some are very mature, but some may still need some additional mentoring, which is always a good thing. And hopefully, with the pipeline through HBCUs, HBCUs will get them ready to make that leap into that profession that they want to. I talked to a friend whose son is interested in, sports management, sports marketing, so how to, he's in high school now, but that's his interest. And so, how do we get these students even earlier, from school, high schools ready and find the right schools and find those right opportunities as well.
Well, guys, we're going to change over here because we got a great guest. We're about to bring on a legend of the game, a nominee for the Basketball Hall of Fame, one of the greatest players to play in the American Basketball Association, an NBA coach, an NBA legend, also a man who looked the UCLA Bruins in the face in Pauley Pavilion and said, "Y'all going down today." Matt Calvin. That's the truth. Am I lying on you, Matt Calvin?
Hey, Ricky. Hello, young lady. And who's that other guy with you, Tim?
Yes, sir.
This is the great Matt Calvin. As I said, I nominee for the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, ABA all-time team, NBA legend, coach in the NBA. And Matt, your USC team went into Pauley Pavilion, took down Kareem, who was Lou Alcindor then, and the Wizard of Westwood.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for having me on. Boy, when you introduced me, man, I had to wonder who you were talking about. You get older, you forget about all those wonderful things. But thank you for those accolades. Yeah, it was my last game, my senior year at USC. And we beat them in a slowdown game, 46-44. The night before we played them, we should have won that. That was in double overtime. UCLA and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was Lou Alcindor at the time, they had only lost one game prior to playing us on that Saturday night, and that was to the Houston team, if you remember, that when Alcindor had the eye injury, and they lost to the great Elvin Hayes and that Houston team, who they later beat in the championship finals, I think, in the NCAA tournament. But that was a great game, and we had prepared to slow the game down all year long, and finally we beat them. But my best game was the night before. I think I had 33 points in a double overtime loss. But boy, you're scratching my memory now. But I had an opportunity to go to UCLA, but I chose to go to USC, and unfortunately, I would have been on two championship teams, but that's okay. Had a great career at USC and still have a lot of fond memories and a great alumni association. So I don't know if I need to turn my hearing aids up, or I can't hardly hear you guys. I don't wear hearing aids, just joking. But, it must be your mic.
Let me. I'm going to turn my. I'll turn up our volume on my volume on this end.
Okay.
I am so happy to see you guys, and I'm happy to have a lovely young lady on in your audience, and because I get tired of looking you two ugly faces, and so you finally brought some beauty.
Yeah, we got some class.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we got some class to the show, Matt.
Yeah, had to clean it up. Yeah, but, Kareem's gone on to do a little bit more after his UCLA days, and tonight he possibly could become the second greatest scorer in NBA history, with LeBron chasing them, needing only 36 points. They got the Thunder tonight, and they have, I think they're home again on Thursday. So
Thursday against Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
I don't think he'll get those numbers tonight. I think he'll come shy. 36 points is a lot of numbers, a lot of points, but they're playing against an Oklahoma team who they should relatively beat relatively easy. and I think he may become 10 or 12 points shy, and he'll get that on against Milwaukee on Thursday night. And it's all drama. It's good for TV as well, right?
It is, because I can go to bed now.
I was going to say, these two guys said they weren't going to stay up for it. So you've given them permission to go to bed early.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited. So a lot of great things are happening in the NBA this year, fellas. And certainly this time of year, I think, Ricky, you and I talked last night about the Kyrie Irving scenario. And as I said, the drama that's out, everybody's excited about Kyrie going to Dallas. But as I articulated last night, I think it's a short-term lease. Dallas perhaps bought themselves into the conference finals, perhaps beating Denver. I think Denver's the team to beat in the West. But Kyrie Irving is a wonderful basketball player, but he's a very troubled young man. And I really feel for what's going on in his life. But he's just not a happy ball player, and his history repeats itself. How he gets along with Luka down in Dallas is going to be a mystery. And Luka is the face of that franchise. And at the end of the day, this summer, I see Kyrie Irving signing with the Lakers and Kareem and also with LeBron James.
Well, he's kicked on 3 teams, right? You want to say that? Because, he wasn't happy in Boston where they had a really good team. Brooklyn, they had Harden, and Durant. Wasn't happy there. Cleveland, he wasn't happy there. And it's like you got 2 ball-dominant guys there in Dallas, and Luka and Kyrie. How is that going to mesh?
Well, as I said, Tim, I think there's no question that it's a 4 or 5 month lease. I think he's good enough to pair with Luka. He'll be similar. He'll do the same thing that's similar to what Bronson did last year in Dallas. Another ball handler. Luka handles the ball 90% of the time. He can now play off the ball with Kyrie handling the ball. Kyrie can make a shot. He can get his own points. I just think Kyrie is the type of individual, and I've played with those type of players. They're never happy. And Kyrie will not play second fiddle to Luka. He didn't want to play second fiddle to LeBron in Cleveland. He certainly did not want to play second fiddle to up-and-coming young stars like Tatum and Brown. I mean, I heard rumors and talking to some of my old NBA guys, they could not wait for him to leave Boston. In fact, I think I heard the rumor they helped him pack his bags and boxes and call the tow truck to get him out of there.
Wow.
What do you think he's unhappy about? What is it? What is it?
I'm sorry.
Why do you think what is he unhappy about? And what does he want if he keeps moving?
I think he wants to be the main. He wants to be the main person, and that was not going to happen in Cleveland with LeBron. And he apologized years later, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy in Boston because of the 2 great young players, Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you see what's happening in Brooklyn. He wasn't happy there with Kevin Durant, and so you're not going to invest $200 million over 4 years for a guy like Kyrie Irving. I don't see that happening. So when you broach the question, why is he happy? It's just ball players have egos, and they don't believe in team culture, working together for the better cause of a championship. He's just never been happy. He's just that kind of guy, unfortunately. Am I speaking out of turn, Tim? Would you say the same thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that. I absolutely do. He seems like a guy that wants to be the center of attention, and he does things all the time to draw attention to him. He handles the ball like he does, the statements he does. I mean, I've pretty much given him the side eye since he said the earth was flat. So I've had issues with him for years. When somebody pops off and says something like that, you think he's a guy who thinks he's too smart for the room, and that's the kind of cat he comes off to be. But I will give him this one thing: in the summer of 2020, when everything was hot, he was in the forefront. after the George Floyd thing. He was right there. And so I think, to me, that is that one shining moment for him. Beyond that, I've always felt that he wasn't worth the effort and wasn't worth whatever these teams were trying to do to get him. Because I think Dallas gave up too much. I think they gave up a couple of firsts and seconds and stuff. I mean, they're down the road, but nonetheless, they're first-round draft picks.
Well, let me read off the particulars of the trade. The Mavericks got Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris. The Nets received Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 29 first-round pick, a 27 second-round pick, and a 29 second-round pick. So those are the particulars of that trade.
So what, Tim?
That's capital. I mean, that's stuff you could use down the road. I mean, in 2 years, Kyrie won't be there. When that 29 pick comes, well, not 20, well, gosh, bad math, 6 years, he won't be around to even, to make a big deal there. They got two 29s and a 27. I still think that was too much, plus the people they gave up. Dinwiddie's a good ball player. Markieff Morris is going to be okay coming back, but I just don't see it where this is going to, you're right, this is going to put him in the chase. It's going to be Golden State, Denver, and Dallas now. Those are the three teams you have to worry about.
I agree with you partially, Tim. How do you throw Golden State in there? I think you're off base there. I don't see Golden State in the equation. I think that's another tactics situation right there. But listen, you gave up 2029. What is that? 6 years from now? That's a 14 or 15-year-old kid somewhere out there that they're betting on the future. They're betting on, can Kyrie get them to the finals, Western Conference Final, and hopefully the NBA Final? My question is, yes, he can. He's that good. Now, beyond that, he's not going to fit into that culture, to that system. Jason Kidd can handle him as a player. You're talking about less than 30 games remaining. I think he's good enough to get them to the finals with Luka. They've been there before. And Denver's the team to beat. But you're giving up pretty much nothing for Jason, for this great ball player. Really, you are. You're giving up future assets. That doesn't mean anything currently. But when you bring a guy like Kyrie in, you're destroying the culture of that team.
Right. I know the current coaching staff don't care about 29 because Jason Kidd's probably thinking, hell, I ain't gonna be there anyway.
Right.
About 29. But Matt, structurally, how do two guys who dominate the ball so much make this work?
Well, they're gonna have to figure that out. If you ask me if Kyrie was a different mentality, a different type of player, I said it can work. But I think over a period of time, it's like Miss Tree, I apologize, but it's like meeting a girl and you're going out on a date for the first time. For the first month, a week or two, it's great. But after she gets to know who you are, she's ready to go. Are you ready to go? And I think that's the same thing. I hate to use that analogy.
No apology needed.
It's the same way. It's the same way with Kyrie Irving. You like him at the beginning. He's a great guy. He's articulate. He's fun to be around. But at the end of the day, you say, when is the season over or when is he going to leave?
Right.
He's a bad date.
He's a bad date. Absolutely.
Yes,
well
absolutely. That's a perfect analogy. He's a bad date.
Bad date.
But it did work with LeBron, who dominates the ball.
Yeah.
So
matter of fact, it wasn't one of the finals. You think it wasn't LeBron, but I think Kyrie should have been the MVP of that series, right?
Absolutely. But Ricky, LeBron would dominate the ball the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, not throughout the game. Whereas Luka and Kyrie dominate the ball throughout the game. It becomes at the end of the game, who's going to take the last shot? And I can guarantee you 99% of the time, it's going to be Luka taking that shot, not Kyrie. That's going to bother Kyrie.
And one thing about LeBron, he will get a ball up. I mean, he
absolutely, he's a facilitator.
Yeah,
you know,
so
and that's and LeBron is standing around and beating people now and scoring a lot of points from his intellect, his experience. It's not his athletic ability anymore. He has those spurts, but he's beating people. You watch him; he's posting up, he's driving to the basket, and still has the 3-point shot, but he's beating and playing well because of his intellect. When you play 18, 20 years in this business and you're playing against 19, 22-year-old kid, I mean, it's like taking candy from a baby.
I agree with that. I really do. And what does that scoring record mean, Matt? How do you put that into perspective? Obviously, longevity and production has been there for him from day one.
Well, when you look at it in perspective, it's more difficult. It was more difficult to do it in Kareem's time, because you remember, and that was during my era, in my time, we didn't have chartered flights. We didn't play the night, and then that evening or 2 hours, 3 hours later, we were in the next city. We had to take commercial flights. We had to wait around the airport 4 or 5 hours. So that's the big difference. Then for both players, it's about being healthy. LeBron has had his small injuries, but he's never been out for a whole season. Neither was Kareem. And they both have played on great teams and with good players where they didn't wear down. And they've had great coaches. And it's just a testament to the fact that physically and emotionally and mentally, they've been locked in the game. And with LeBron over the last 5-6 years, what is he, Tim? He puts out $1 million for his physical care with physical therapists and a think tank and a water tank and all this. This is every day. And and today's game is a lot easier as I said, than 15 years ago or 20 years ago when Kareem played.
Right. I was looking at something or listening to something today where they said a player would have to play 20 years, averaging 30 points a game to come close to what LeBron is doing. And the thing about it, I'm not a LeBron fan, never have been. But caveat.
And why is that? Why is that?
It's something about him that seems disingenuous. But I'm just put a pin in that. But the deal is with him, people were dogging him today on a sports talk station here in Atlanta, just because they didn't like him off the court. And I'm going off the court, married his high school sweetheart, was raised, became a great husband, great father, putting kids through school, has had 0 scandals for 20 years. And yet people are like, dogging him. What I saw the other night with the Celtics game Saturday before last, that kind of the theatrics behind him not getting the call when he got fouled. I mean, he does too much of that on the court for me. But I'm saying,
and that's why you don't like him.
Yeah, the theatrics.
What did you say, Miss McDougal?
What, sir?
What did you say?
I said
you make me really feel old now, calling me sir.
Oh, I call everybody sir.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
But that's the HBCU experience that I had. But Tim, I was saying that's why you don't like him.
Well, yeah, because I think he cries. He cries a lot on fouls.
You just went through this whole litany of all the great things about him.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said that's the thing. It's like, dude, just be regular. Don't. But and then they ran off a list of the top 10 scorers of the league right now, or all-time scorers, and they listed all of them. Pretty much had the same theatrics that LeBron did. You got Barkley, you got Kareem, you had Hakeem. All these guys pretty much cried on every foul. Jordan, they cried on every foul. And that stuff, I mean, he has a lot of latitude out there on the court. But they don't like him because of, we think they layer some of that racism over the top of it, trying to use that as a reason for not liking him. But there's nothing you can say about him off the court. He's an entrepreneur. He's just done so much, but it's just something that's like I said, I'm not a fan but I'm a fan of him in general on the whole because of what he represents. You can't say anything negative.
I get
greatness represent. There's a lot about greatness that represent. Of all the players that I know in my era and even now, LeBron James will go down in history, in my opinion, as one of the greatest basketball players that brought value to the game. And I agree with Ms. McDougal. LeBron James is like medicine. He's the Jackie Robinson of professional sport for a Black athlete. He stands up. He you talk about the schools. Those are things you should do. You give back. But what he stands, his principles. He's never been in trouble. He's never been had any scandals. He's always spoke truth to light. From Donald Trump to all the other political issues to the COVID. He's the one that said to the players, we need to play. Where Kyrie Irving was bashing. Michael Jordan never spoke out, never supported the Black community, not once. He gave $10 million last year over a 10-year period. But Michael Jordan never was a face of the African-American community and really showed an example of what our young kids should be like, who they should exemplify. Yeah. He never was. Kareem was never that guy. Kobe Bryant was never that guy. Magic Johnson was never that guy. And I'm talking over 50 plus years being in this business. And I'm not talking about being a good father. I'm talking about how do you represent as an African-American to these young kids out there and to our community. And there's no one better than LeBron James.
Well, speaking of that, I have to commend you, Matt, with your work with the. We talked about it on our other show a couple of weeks ago, and I have to mention it tonight. The money that is now available for former ABA players that you were a focal part and played a major role in helping procure, along with Dr. J and some of the other guys. Give our listeners to You Get What You Get details on that program that just recently went into play with the NBA.
Ricky, I'm not good about talking about myself, man.
Yeah, but,
there's a script in the Bible says too much is given, much is required. And I've been required to give back. I'm very fortunate and blessed to achieve and acquire the things that I have. My basketball camp with kids for 46 years and just other things that I've done. But as you share with me, the audience about my fight for ABA pension for players, and then I sued the NBA 2014, 2015, and we won a class action suit for over 100 players to get monies from the NBA that led to currently over the last 6 months, guys are going to receive up to $25 million and a pension for in perpetuity as long as they live. And I've received so many calls from guys that say, I got 20,000, 30,000, and they're going to get that over as long as they live. So that means a lot to me. I didn't qualify for that because I played in the NBA, 7 years in the ABA and then 5 in the NBA. Guys like myself, Dr. J, and a lot of the well-known players that got NBA pensions. So hopefully we will get that, but I'm really proud of that. But I'm also saddened because a lot of former ABA players did not receive the checks that these guys are getting now that could have helped them. Think about $15, $20, $25, $30,000 to guys in their 70s or in their 80s. Man, that's a game. That's a life changer. So that's what I'm proud of, but I don't toot my horn on it.
I know it, man, but it's important for our viewers to know the work you've done in your
I'm more interested in understanding what Ms. McDougal said. She works in the HBCU culture. And I like the fact that you are a female, and I'm a champion for females that's in this business of sports because my daughter is, and I know how difficult it is. And so what you're doing, I'm impressed. You just keep doing what you're doing, and you have all of our support.
Well,
So
thank you,
that's,
sir.
to me, it's most important than, your name in the paper or what you've accomplished.
Just let me hang out with them, sir.
Well, other than you got the LeBron hater, you got some great guys. Tim
has a list of people he doesn't like, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, I get where Tim is coming from. I totally get that.
I don't know. Here's my thing. Sorry to cut you off. But my thing is, if you haven't met him, you don't really know. So you're just looking at him from the outside. See, that's where I differ with you, Tim.
Okay.
Well, you keep kicking those doors down.
Met him once.
Okay.
The perception of, but you can still have that perception of a player, and they all complain nowadays. I hear people tell me Michael Jordan didn't complain. Yes, he did. I covered those series where the Pistons were whooping on his head. He had a very good reason to complain because
they were killing him.
Putting some wood on him, but he complained. Hey, Mac, we just got a couple more minutes. I want to just as a pioneer, as a guy who played professional basketball in the South in the late 60s and 70s and dealt with the racism when you were in Miami and that whole thing there, to see what's happening today in the National Football League, where this Sunday you're going to have two black quarterbacks lead their teams in the Super Bowl. What does that mean to someone like you? Because even though you played another professional sports, in my mind, they stand on your shoulders as well.
Well, Ricky, the question I ask, will it move the needle? Will it move the needle for the National Football League to hire more black coaches?
Absolutely.
Okay, will it move? If you recall, many years ago, you had Tony Dungy and you had Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
Were the first two African-American coaches to ever coach in a Super Bowl game. Did it move that needle? No, it didn't move that needle. Now, what I will say, you've got more opportunity to continue to get more black quarterbacks, African-American quarterbacks, on an annual basis than you are going to hire more African-American head coaches, even on the stage that's going to be presented itself on Sunday. It will not resonate or move the needle to predominantly white owners to say we need to hire more African-American coaches. And if they do hire black coaches, they're getting the bottom of the barrel type teams that's going to take 5-6 years to rebuild, and they don't give us that many years. So I'm happy there's a Patrick Mahomes and Hunt hurt, but will it move the needle? They're going to just say, "Boy, he's a great athlete." Because I remember a time that if you were a black quarterback, you didn't get a chance. You became a wide receiver or a running back or a defensive back. So, Black America is going to be pulling for those two kids. Yeah. But will it move the needle for the NFL to say we need to hire more coaches? The Rooney Rule has not worked. Right. It's a joke. It's just nothing but a scam to say we hired or we interviewed 3 or 4 African-American coaches, but they're not hired. And the problem is we don't get a chance, meaning African-American assistant coaches or offensive coordinators don't get a chance to be around the general managers, the white general managers, the white coaches, where they get to know who we are. And that's the problem. You look and see what Deion Sanders did. He moved the needle. He moved the needle for a white institution now to hire him. And that's what has to take place, in my opinion. So it's going to be a nice game. Seeing 2 African-American quarterbacks is wonderful. African-American community is going to cheer and root, happy. But at the end of the day, are they hiring more? Are they hiring more African-American individuals that look like Miss McDougal as athletic directors are in the position she's in. Nothing moves, man. NBA, as I've said to you before, it's a copycat league. You had a lot of problems going on, and NBA has 15 black coaches. In 2 years from now, you'll probably only have 6 or 7. Because those guys, like in Houston with Paul Silas' son, Stephen Silas, won't be successful. Guy in Orlando, they won't be successful because they're not winning. And on and on and on. Jason Kidd and all those guys, the Chauncey Billups in Portland, they're there now, but they won't be there 3 or 4 years from now because they haven't won enough games. Yeah. I'm sorry if I just speak truth to light, man.
Well, man, hey, it is an honor and pleasure to have you on. Hey, what's your Super Bowl prediction?
Oh, I love Kansas City.
Kansas City.
I love what they stand for. I love what Mahomes stand for. But I think at the end of the day, I think Philadelphia is the better overall team.
All right, Tree, who do you like?
I don't bet. But that's I've been a Kansas City fan, but I just think Philadelphia is going to be. They have proven themselves all year long.
I don't have a favorite.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a favorite myself. Who's going to win? I don't have a prediction. But I will say it'll be one of the black quarterbacks. How about that?
Yes.
Safe bet right there.
and Ricky, you got I love Coach Reed. I think he is a guy that he's got a black offensive coordinator who's been with him. He hasn't been promoted as a head coach.
Can't get a job.
Can't get a head coaching job.
Eric Bieniemy can't get a job.
Yeah. So I'm just so honest that I see it in every sport that we don't get the opportunity. We have to be different, and we have to have someone to be a cheerleader for us to get head coaching job, or general managers, or president of organization job. And I got more time behind me than I have ahead, and I don't see it happening soon.
Yeah. Tim, your prediction?
KC by 10.
Yeah, I like the Eagles to win. So, but we want to thank our guest Matt Calvin for.
Who do you like, Ricky?
I like Philly. I like Philly to win. Hey, but I'm kind of like Tree. I'm a winner Sunday because we're gonna have
the same here. I just have people I know in Philly who are really awful fans, and I don't want to hear that noise on Monday. So,
hey, keep your hands in your pocket. Don't make a bet, will you? Because I don't think since I've been coming on this show 3 or 4 years, man, you haven't won again. You haven't won a series.
That's right.
Wow.
So, I always go the
Hey, if I say I like one team, you like an opposite team. So I love that about you and I. We're so competitive.
We want to thank.
I love you, brother.
We want to thank Matt Calvin for checking in and always giving his wonderful insight. We also want to thank earlier in the show, D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlantic Journal-Constitution for checking in. Find that man's work at AJC.com. Great writer, one of the best football writers in the country. For Miss Tree McDougal, I'm Rick Hampton, Tim Turner. Peace, everybody. Good night.
Good night.